Alrighty, welcome to the first live Present Fathers podcast, and we are super excited. My name is George. I'm here with Brandon, Dustin, and Justin, and
Hey.
yeah, just absolutely pumped to have our live setup ready to go. And yeah, boys, let's take it away with intros. Brandon, how you been, man?
Man, I've been real good. I had a great week at work. Got to do a little bit of a car show thing, so I got to ride around the car and hang out with some old buddies and have a good time. So I'm excited.
Nice, nice. Dustin, how about you?
Yeah, sounds good, man. I was at the pool all weekend with my kid. He's learning how to swim. He's doing really good. He's underwater for like 15 seconds by himself, which is not bad for a 2-year-old. So just watching him get better at that has just been an absolute joy.
Awesome, Justin. How about you, man?
Oh man, I go to Chicago this actually tomorrow for a week. So I've been prepping for that, making sure my wife's set up for the kiddo and everything's good there. But he's unfortunately been sick, coughing and all that jazz. So that's not been too much fun watching him be miserable. But yeah, everything else is pretty good. Job's going well. So
All right.
Yeah, you just started the new job, right?
yeah, that's why I'm going to Chicago. Our corporate headquarters is there, and we do training. I'm going to be joining, I think, 10 or 12 other new reps that were hired nationwide. So
Nice. Yeah. Good deal. Well, congrats again on
Thanks, man.
the job change. I know you're pretty excited to be
man.
back in the industry.
Excited ain't the word. Yeah, man.
Relieved, thankful.
Oh yeah, stoked, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm George. I've been doing pretty good. Traveled the last couple weeks. Man, weather really screwed up travel this week. It's been a journey, but other than that, doing pretty good. So no complaints. My wife and I went out on a date night last night. Really, there's a new place that opened up in town. It was really awesome, and
Nice.
yeah, we had a good time. So, alrighty, Brandon, take us away. You are the host for tonight's episode.
Yes, sir. So the things we're going to talk about tonight. First of all, the book that we read this past week was by Meg Meeker. She has a bunch of great books like Hero, but the main book we discussed and we read was Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. And there's a picture right there, just in case you want to see the title on the cover there. It's a fantastic book. I honestly think that you're not going to find a greater cheerleader for dads today than Dr. Meg Meeker. She's a psychologist who has been a pediatric psychologist for over 32 years. I think the book it's friendly, it's practical, encouraging, inspiring, and I think that every dad would be blessed to read what she's written. Now, one of the things that she discusses in great detail is one, how men are marginalized and dad bashing has become a huge issue in our current culture. And I know that a lot of dads on top of that have struggled with the demands of fatherhood and whether they measure up on a daily basis. But, in her books, she encourages us that our presence alone and our effort alone is all that our kids will need from us. So it's really encouraging just to know that our presence is what they really they hunger for. And one of the things that she goes into is social psychology and behavioral psychology, most especially emotional regulation and emotional intelligence. And that's going to be the two main topics that we discuss tonight. So let's knock out the definitions first. That way we kind of get a good understanding of what each one are. Now, keep in mind, emotional regulation is actually one of the branches of emotional intelligence. So we'll go into that a little bit more in detail. Emotional regulation is the ability to exert control over one's own feelings and emotional state. It may involve behaviors such as rethinking a challenging situation to reduce anger or anxiety, hiding visible signs of sadness or fear, or focusing on reasons to feel happy or calm. Okay, so that's emotional regulation. Emotional intelligence, otherwise known as EQ or emotional quotient, is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in a positive way to relieve stress, to communicate effectively, to empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. So that's the kind of bread and butter definitions. Now, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. What do you guys think personally what emotional regulation is and how important is it to you guys in your personal lives?
I'll take that one first. I remember watching Mr. Rogers when I was a kid, and man, we all miss Mr. Rogers. He was all about what do you do with the mad you feel, and all that stuff. And I don't know if, a lot of more modern television shows geared towards kids do as good of a job as that did in helping kids, deal with emotional issues. I had so many coping mechanisms when I was young, when I got bullied, when I was sad, when I had, challenges like every kid does. And I thought about that. And I thought about, my family taught me, and I had strategies and coping mechanisms. And I think a lot of parents, a lot of dads, a lot of moms just don't teach their kids how to cope with the inevitable emotional challenges that they're going to find. So yeah, give me more Mr. Rogers, and I think we'll be in a better place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to cut you off, Brandon, and do the whole, what is that, 40-year-old virgin, where Kevin Hart's like, you using all these big words, man, and I'm going to take offense to those. No. You try to say I'm stupid? No.
Yes, we are.
They found me out,
You
man.
left it wide open.
They found me out. Just slammed the door in my face, man, while you're at it. All right. So emotional intelligence for me, this is actually something that, we've spoke about behind closed doors, something I actually wanted to cover in the future, just as a father. But if we're talking about children and for ourselves as a whole, emotional intelligence is the ability, say, for instance, when you're a dad and you're in front of your children and your wife does something extremely, extremely bad, or somebody does something to upset you and get an emotional response from you. Emotional intelligence is stopping, taking a deep breath, understanding that how you react is what your children will see.
Yeah.
That's what everyone else will see. And always being that guy that's calm, cool, and collected, no matter how terrible the situation, you are a very emotionally intelligent person, if that's the case. And that's what you should strive for, because those are the people that, get respected. So.
Sure, and that's actually called emotional deferring. So you teach yourself and your children to defer. So even when you're angry and you're wanting to say something, you defer that emotion. It's not suppressing it so much as it is controlling it and keeping it held until you can address it properly. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's emotional deferment is very important for sure, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But how about you, George? What do you think your definition?
So we're defining both, right? Regulation and intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Regulation, in my own words. Yeah, I guess just being able to just control it in the moment, right? And then I think intelligence is it's more of the identification aspect of it, both your own and others' kind of feelings and being able to kind of sense. It's like a sixth sense a little bit. Like, hey, I think this person's getting agitated or things like that. That I think being able to identify it is the key point there about intelligence. If you can't identify it, then it doesn't matter really how much you can regulate, because you'll get blindsided by it. But I don't know. That's the way I interpreted those.
Right. Yeah. And I think the most important thing that people have to remember is, when you're wanting to teach your children emotional regulation or emotional intelligence, either one, you first have to be able to model it for yourself. Mm-hmm. So the most important thing for a dad to do is to be able to do these things for himself, to be healthy himself, and then he can model it to his children and even his wife. So, if there's turmoil in the house, check your regulation and your intelligence. Where are you weak at? Because everybody's weak in one of the sectors, and we're going to go into the sectors here in just a second, but everybody's weak somewhere. And if you really look at yourself in the mirror and you write them down and you start progressing on those, like I said, just one day at a time in the previous podcast, you'll really start being able to model these things really well. And you'll learn some stuff that will help you as a dad and as a husband. So let's dive into emotional intelligence. So,
B, can I
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Just interrupt you real quick? Sorry. I never answered the regulation. So again, Kevin Hart, stupid idiot. Yeah. So regulation for me, I've actually had a few outlets like Dustin was talking about. We all have our inner wars, our not so much demons here, but just our inner battles. And finding coping mechanisms is either key in progressing or making yourself worse. Because if you don't find ways to deal with what you were thinking emotionally or feeling, emotionally, because of your own intelligence, I think in the end, for me, music and the gym and finding healthy outlets to get rid of my rage and anger and the things that I felt, when something bad happened to me, or my upset, or, whatever the case may be for certain instances. I think finding those proper channels is definitely key. But for anybody, I would suggest 100% the gym. The gym will always make you feel good. And two, that actually regulates you physically as well, in your mental state. But the music, man, is a great outlet for everything. So.
Yeah. And the good news is, I'm so glad you brought that up. We're actually going to go through a lot of coping mechanisms, both for adults and children, here in the kind of the back end of the podcast. So that's awesome, man. I appreciate you bringing that up. So let's break down the 5 primary sectors of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, social skills, self-regulation, which is, again, the emotional regulation, and motivation and empathy. Okay. And just like anything else in life, again, people are always going to have to start somewhere, and they're also going to have to build up, because they might be weak in some of these, and they might be naturally gifted or strong in some of these. So I would say that people need to study these. And again, like you were saying, Dustin, self-awareness. I realized watching Mr. Rogers, there was certain emotions that I might have felt. He taught me coping mechanisms. I was aware of the emotions in the first place, though. So that's the important part. Starting to realize and see those emotions allows you to regulate them. So that's the main part of the intelligence that people really need to grasp at first. So I would say always hit up self-awareness first, and then go from there. Because like, you can always tell when you're losing your patience, when you're getting mad, when you're starting to feel anxious or sad. Your body kind of has natural physical ways of manifesting that. And if it doesn't, then your emotions definitely will, through your behaviors. Social skills is going to be the second one. Obviously, that kind of goes without saying that a lot of us, especially in this day and age with social media and all that stuff, social skills, to be honest, for a lot of people is lacking. So I would say getting in person with people and building up your social skills is really important. And then obviously we'll go into more emotional regulation later. But motivation is kind of one of those that's buried into a form of discipline, because you're usually motivated by something that really piques your interest, or that you feel like will provide benefit for you. And a lot of our self-defense mechanisms will push us away from being motivated from something that we don't like, or that has caused trauma in our past. So you can always seek those behaviors and kind of adjust yourself. And it's pretty amazing. Like, I've dug into my past traumas and found out, oh, that's why I behave this way, or that's why I do this now. And that's why I do this with my child, when I react this way. So it's really important to know what your motivations are and how to drive them. Because I think discipline is one of those things that is kind of an under pillar for your motivation, because when you don't have motivation, your discipline and your character needs to kick in to push you through it anyways. And like Justin was saying, a great example of that would be the gym. Like, how many of us want to go to the gym every day, especially at 5 o'clock in the morning? Nobody. Unless it's Dustin, because he eats tons of cookies. But either way, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you're going to have things that you're not going to be motivated for all the time, and so that's where other things kick in. But I think one of the other most important ones is going to be empathy. And empathy is just like we were talking about in the past podcast with Stu Weber's Tender Warrior. Empathy is a huge role in both in fatherhood and as a husband. So we'll go into more of that. But are there any other types of skills or sectors that you guys think should be on that list besides the 5 that we have?
I'm thinking.
Sure.
Yeah, that's hard.
I don't know if it kind of cuts across all of them, but maybe like control. You kind of said it too, discipline. I don't know. I guess it's self-regulation, but yeah, it's self-regulation. Never mind.
Okay.
Maybe something about awareness of other people, right? I mean, we talked about, like, social skills kind of covers that a little bit, but a lot of us have self-awareness. We know when we're angry, but then maybe it's not so easy to tell, when someone else is angry or someone else needs something from you that you're not providing. That's kind of a tough one.
Yeah. That might fall under empathy, though.
Yeah, fair.
Because, I don't know. Yeah,
Sure, that's a tough one to throw at you guys. So I guess let's
I'll
talk.
yield to the doctor who wrote it.
That's right. Yeah, fair.
Yeah, that's a great thing. She's got a lot of quotes that
Wait,
that
I
go
want to
into that.
mansplain to the doctor.
Yeah, here.
Why my idea is better.
You're a qualified, psychiatrist or anything.
Exactly,
Let me drag my knuckles over here and try and add one more. Nah, I got nothing to add. Honestly, I think she obviously outlined it pretty well. I'm sure she put a lot of thought into these 5 categories.
Okay, so let's just go into ways to teach our kids intelligence, and we
Sure.
can discuss some things in our personal lives that the ways that we do those things. So the first thing would be modeling the appropriate emotional and social expressions when you're talking to your children, like being patient even when you're super frustrated. Understanding that children, they are going to have just a select few puzzle pieces instead of the whole puzzle, and as adults who have grown and have experiences, we have the entire puzzle, and we
Right.
have the tendency to lose our patience and get frustrated at children because we forget that they only just have a select few of those puzzle pieces. So it's such an important aspect. And I think if we remind ourselves in the moment, we realize, okay, hey, I can be a lot more patient with my son because, man, he hasn't done this stuff like I have. And I'm expecting a little more than I probably should. And so, like, I always kind of check myself when I'm about to start laying down the law with my son as far as discipline. But yeah, modeling those is so vital because they literally pick up on all of our behaviors so extensively. So how would you guys model like a social expression or a appropriate emotion? Is there something that you guys do on a daily basis with your kids?
To model it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I mean, like you were saying earlier, just kind of. I mean, they're always observant, watching everything we do, right? So it's, not getting overly amped up about something that's kind of small, right?
Sure.
But I don't know about modeling, but something we have to work with our daughter a lot is just like getting her to take deep breaths to just like get it back under control. She'll get real emotional really fast and like start crying and stuff sometimes over nothing. And like I try and like diffuse myself, or like it's okay, nothing's wrong. Try and start talking slower and stuff. Take deep breaths myself, but I don't know. That's just one thing.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. My kid just starts crying all the time.
Well, he is an
No.
infant.
I do, yeah.
It's weird how that works.
For context, mine just turned 7, so
No. Honestly, Ainsley and I do a very good job of smiling, and he is literally the smiliest little dude you'll ever see in your life. If you see any photos of my kid, he's literally always smiling. If you see him in a video, he'll look at you and just grin from ear to ear. He is the most joyous human being I've ever been around, and we try to push that and make it thrive by every time he sees us in the morning, or when I'm changing his diaper, or whatever the case may be, I'm always smiling at him, and it's a genuine smile. And it's my way of showing him love, because yes, he's an infant. He can't communicate. So, it's a little different with my child right now for me. But I think that's something that we try to model is kids pick up on what you put down. You see what I'm saying? And like, it's a big deal. If a kid sees you, fighting most of your life with your spouse, they're probably going to pick up on those things and start doing that with other people and lash out and do bad things.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you're a smiley parent, you're always joyous, you're always happy around them, they're going to think, man, I'm loved, I'm happy. I have no reason not to be happy. So,
yeah.
That's awesome.
You,
I love that you have that. Yeah, definitely. I go out of my way when I'm with my son, no matter how unfriendly or unapproachable somebody is. I'm going to go say hi to them, and I'll say, "Hey, Lucas, can you say hi to this person?" And a lot of times, they'll open up immediately, and it affects him in a lot of positive ways. He's incredibly social, very friendly, always has something fun to say to people. And, I think that behavior will play in as he gets older, to where he will be an open, friendly person that people want to talk to. And I think that's a really important thing.
Absolutely.
yeah. Sorry, I wanted to add one more thing about how I think how powerful it is, the puzzle piece analogy, because like it was really convicting for one, right? Because there's just you had a rough day at work or just a lot going on, you're tired, stressed, and then like you're a little less patient with your child than you should be. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, I've walked the earth for almost 34 years. I've got a little bit more perspective on how to handle this specific item. But it's such a great, yeah, we can show that. We'll highlight this comment here. But yeah, it's just, I think it was such a beautiful description of how we need to like remind ourselves to just take a pause, think about it. And it's the empathy thing, right? You're empathizing with how your child is reacting to whatever this situation is. And it was definitely convicting for me because there's just so many times where you're a little bit short with your kid and you're like, oh man, I wish I could take that back. And yeah, so hey, I wanted to this is our first live comment, so huge shout out to outside the target demographic. He said, hey gents, I saw your shout out on Friday Night Tights, which is a different streaming show. They cover like movies and pop culture and stuff like that. It's something I follow. They're a really awesome channel, really funny. And anyway, have to catch this one on the re-upload, but wanted to know you have a fan. So hey, thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate you joining.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, we'll try and make this a good one for you.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so back to the regularly scheduled broadcast now, but
But so yeah, you were talking, and this is a great point. You were talking about how sometimes you might lose your cool. That's another great way to model emotional expression and intelligence. You say, daughter or son, I was angry, I was frustrated because of this
kinda walk it
behavior.
back.
Right. And I'm not perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect in your life. There are going to be people, even that you love, that will, hurt your feelings at times and test your patience. But, I'll apologize for it. And you apologize to them sincerely. And I really think that that's another way to model some good behaviors, So even mistakes are great chances to teach children because, we're all going to make them. I mean, that's for sure. So, yeah.
That is definitely one thing I try and do, though, is like every time I screw up, I try and admit it as quickly as possible and go apologize. And I think we talked about this a lot last week too, but
Yeah.
I guess the point I want to make is like, I'm pretty hard on myself. But like you're going to mess up. Like we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. So I think, obviously try not to make mistakes, but if you do, own it and then apologize for it. And I think that your child will be pretty quick to kind of like, let it go, and they won't build resentment or anything. So
Sure.
hang in there, guys. Don't give up after one bad day or something,
Right.
Yeah.
And again, our presence, man, like our kids are born naturally striving and wanting our attention, unconditionally loving us and respecting us. Like that is a given from birth. Now, whether we keep that's on us, but even then, I've seen so many examples in this book and other places where children who didn't have dads or dads just abused them or caused a lot of trauma, they still yearn for that dad's approval and they still yearn for that attention. So, you're going to be loved and yearned for regardless if you make mistakes. And the thing is, you just got to learn from them and you got to pick yourself up. You got to improve on those things and just become your kid's hero. And that's the bottom line. Become your kid's hero every day. And again, the presence is one of the most important things. And that's why this podcast is here. We want to be present fathers because we know that's one of the most impactful things on our children's lives. But let's go into the second bullet point here for teaching ways to teach our kids intelligence. The second one is developing problem-solving skills, asking questions that help guide them to figure things out for themselves. So do you guys have any cool examples for maybe this week or any time recently where you've kind of guided your kids through an issue? Maybe ask them questions to kind of get them thinking, get that brain churning on certain things to kind of figure out something on their own.
That's easy for me, having an infant. I know. I mean, like seriously, we so our morning routine,
that, right?
Yeah. No,
come
I mean,
on,
like,
come on.
yeah. So like our morning routine, I put him in bed, in our bed. And I know before anybody says, don't put him in your bed. Well, we're not putting him in our bed. He doesn't sleep in our bed. He never comes to our bed for that reason. He's just in a little like carrier thing. And I put him towards the TV, and it's the only time of day we let him watch TV, and I throw on baseball. We watch MLB's, highlights from the night before on the MLB channel. And it's like our father-son bonding time. Well, what I like to do is we do a little tummy time afterwards, and we always put a toy just out of his reach. And
There you go.
he just, we try to get him to move and do, and he's gotten to the point now where he will roll and grab just so he can get extra, length, and it's pretty incredible seeing.
I gotta ask, because Raylan would do this where she would just kind of stop and like look at you like, dude, give me why did you put it there? Just give me the ball,
Right? Yeah. Why are we doing this?
Even the baby, they're just like.
Bennett will do this. He'll smile at you and he's like, yeah, this is about to happen, and then he just goes for it, and then
Nice.
He does these like grunts and stuff, and his little face is like he's smiling, but he's grunting at the same time, and like he's like super big for a baby, like muscular wise. He's just dense. He doesn't have much. Well, I mean, he has a lot of fat now. He looks like the Michelin Man, but when he was born, he was 8 pounds 10 ounces and like no fat. It was weird. So he's just like Mr. Shoulders, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna get it, and so it's just cute, man. We really enjoy, trying to challenge him physically, because that's where he kind of excels. Unfortunately, he may end up in his father's brains department, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, with my son, it's been such a joy. Again, he's about 2.5, so perfect time to start learning how to swim. And it is a little scary letting your kid be underwater when he's that little, for as long as you need to be. But that's how he learns. And, when I'm able to get him just those little bit of skills more and more, to where he's able to get better at that, is just is so much fun. It's been really cool, being part of that.
That is cool.
I think examples from this week. I mean, like when we're reading a book at the Raylan, I won't just like immediately tell her the answer to a word she's struggling on. I make her kind of work it out. If she asks like what a word means or something, we'll kind of say, well, what do you think it means first? And then help her like find, get the right answer. But
or she uses detrimental wrong, and
some of us wait till our 30s before we finally learn it. It's okay. That's still so funny. That's gonna be like the inside joke of this podcast,
it's
forever
for
now.
Sure. I was.
It's so detrimental. For those who haven't seen it, Justin misused detrimental twice in our first episode. I think he meant to say like foundational or crucial or something. Yeah. Anyway,
episode 1, Revenge of the Grammar. Geez.
We just do a lot of little things like that with Raylan, because she's 7 now, so it's like I'm trying to get her to be as independent as possible, and never let her totally fail, but let her fail a little bit so she like learns how to overcome and stuff. But I think honestly the biggest challenge is just she gets so emotionally charged so fast that we're trying to get her to identify like, well, why are you upset right now? She's like, I don't know. It's like, well, think about it. What is bothering you? So we're still working on that one. That's the hard one. But
yeah, for Benjamin, one example was, and Jordan Peterson has this in his book, 12 Rules of Life. He says never interrupt a kid when they're skateboarding, and because it helps them learn their physical limitations. It lets them learn certain aspects of how to create strength and diversity. And
how to break an arm.
Well, yeah. I mean, but hey, that's again physical limitations, So Ben was trying to do certain things with the skateboard. He actually ended up scratching his face up a good bit, but he was like, Dad, I don't understand how it happened. I said, did you go up any curbs or anything like that? And he's started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I hit the curb. I said, well, son, if the board stops and you don't, what do you think's going to happen? He started thinking about it. He says, I'm going to hit something. I said, yeah. And so I said, just get back up and try it again. And I didn't help him. And man, I tell you what, that kid was cruising over it like no problem after that. But it took a couple tries, and there was some hardship there. And I do the same for Bayla. I like when she's trying to stand or balance on something, I'll say, do you want me to hold your hand or do you want to try it yourself? And most of the times they'll try it themselves, but I'll be there not touching them, but like my hands are right there by their arms. So if they do fall, they know Dad's safety's there. But if they don't, then I never did anything and it was all them, and they understand that. And so I think that's really important, when developing any kind of problem solving skills, just kind of give the hints and the questions.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's how I do it.
Nice.
Well, to add something before Dustin talks real quick, what he continued to say, Jordan Peterson, that is, said, you got to let your kids do dangerous things carefully.
Yep.
Because if they're doing dangerous things carefully, they're learning.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great
That's how
point.
they learn. Yeah. So, and it's built into our brains. Recent research is fascinating. When mothers have a child, their amygdala, their fear center, triples in size, and it never shrinks. So when they're 80 and their daughter is 60, they still have that same fear level. Fathers, our amygdala doesn't change at all, stays the same, right? So nature designed us to have mothers who are a little overly concerned and fathers who maybe aren't concerned enough. And between the two of us, we make sure the mom makes sure you don't die. The dad makes sure you do some challenging things. But
Right.
other parts of our bodies do change. So our oxytocin levels, which is your cuddle hormone, surge during pregnancy. So even though we're not pregnant, our brains are so powerful that they cause our hormones to surge. So we are very cuddly. I remember crying during commercials, when I first had my baby, going, "Oh my God, that's the most touching Ford commercial ever," right? Like, what is wrong with me?
Why,
I just wanna see
Why
that.
did you
Why'd
use
you
the
give me that
dog?
commercial?
It's funny too, because like I just have to interject, because you're like such a large man, like when people see you, they're probably just like, dude, that guy's a monster.
Yeah.
Like you're very masculine.
Dustin has PTSD from Sarah McLachlan. Anytime she comes on, he's like, "Oh."
So got me. That's right. Yeah. So, but it's fascinating to me to know that we're designed to be that way, right? To allow our children to take some risks and to learn that way, because if we don't, they never learn, and that's dangerous later on in life.
Yeah, that's more hurtful to them in the long run than it is helpful. And helicopter parenting
Being
is a big,
over sheltered.
yeah, like helicopter
Yeah.
parenting. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why Jordan had it in his book, was because you got to take risk. I mean, being alive's a risk. The second you were born is risky. You know,
Birth
I
is
mean,
risky.
the second you're born, you're living risk the whole life. And I mean, 1 out of 1 people die, so you're gonna die. I mean, we're dying today. It's just a matter of when we actually kick the bucket.
True.
So, just you got to take it in strides. But let's move on to the third bullet point. Third bullet point is help children label their emotions. And this is a great one. My son is a high emotion sensitive child. He is highly empathetic and just like extreme genius level observation skills. Like I don't even have to say anything. I can look at him in a specific way and he just bursts into tears because he reads my body language. 70% of communication is body language. And he knows that I'm frustrated or that I'm upset, and it upsets him. And so one of the things that he'll do now as a 7-year-old, if he doesn't get his way, or like he goes out of his way to be helpful to his sister, and like he's giving her like an extra treat that he brought, and she's like, "Well, no thanks, I don't want it." It hurts his feelings, and he'll go, and he'll grunt and groan, and it's like, I'm like, "Ben, explain what you're feeling, son. Like talk it out. Don't whine. Don't be frustrated with grunts and groans." I said, "Actually tell us how you feel." And he'll sit down and he'll say, "Dad, my feelings are hurt. And when sister did this," and like he actually gives us very specific detail on, like, he's labeling those emotions so intensely. And it's a beautiful thing, because the more he practices this stuff, in the long run, he's going to be able to create boundaries with it, future wife, friends, peers. Like it's one of those things that kind of has a domino effect. So for me personally, labeling emotions, especially with a high sensitivity child, is so important. And I'm sure you guys have plenty of examples. I'd love to hear.
Yeah.
A few of them.
So Dustin, how would you label the emotion you felt when I stole your last cookie when we were neighbors? I mean,
Remember the scene where Julius Caesar says "et tu, Brute" to Brutus when the whole Roman Senate is stabbing him? Yeah, that didn't even hold a candle to how I felt. So much rage,
no.
betrayal. Couldn't believe it. Those are good cookies too. That's messed up, man.
Yeah, I
But
remember
you brought that
Christmas.
back
You
to
were
me.
like, you looked so betrayed that I took the last cookie and I just shoved it in my mouth as fast as I could, and I just stared into your soul. I was like, you know what's happening right here.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a moment. So
On the next episode of How Not to Be a Good Friend,
Dustin's gonna go.
he's gonna go get cookies now.
Beat up a puppy.
He's running over to your house right now. He's gonna beat you up.
Oh man.
What about you, George?
Let's see. Sorry, what was the question? How do I help them label, or what?
Yeah, like how would you help your child label her emotions?
Yeah, I think I kind of already talked about. Like,
Yeah, you did.
I didn't mean to. I hopped ahead, but yeah, I mean, whenever she's kind of struggling with, when she's kind of worked up, be like, well, why are you upset? Think about
Sure.
what is making you upset right now. I was like, I don't know. It's like, well, it's okay, but think about it, because if you, can figure out why you're upset, then maybe you can wind down. Sometimes she's just tired. But
my son taught me something today. We were at the pool and he really needed to pee, so he was super nervous and sad and upset. And I was like, "Hey, buddy, what's going on? Why are you upset?" Thinking he was having something else going on. He's like, "Dad, I have to go to the bathroom." I was like, "All right, let's go. My bad."
Yeah.
So I wasn't paying attention.
He probably thought he was doing something wrong almost. It's funny.
Yeah.
The whole puzzle piece thing there again.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I can't really say too much on this one, other than my son's looking at me at 3 o'clock in the morning, like, dude, really? Like, my butt's full. I want to change, and you're just looking at me trying to rock me to sleep. What's going on? He's like, change my diaper, give me some self-respect back, and then I'll think about going back.
Yeah, you'll have to wait probably another 2 years before you're really working on that one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think the good thing too with that is that's where that self-awareness comes in for us as dads, is being able to recognize and label our own emotions and then model that to our children. So again, it comes back down to the modeling aspect of it, being able to model that, like, to your wife. Like, a good example, like, if I'm tired and I'm anxious, I will literally tell my wife, I'll say, honey, I'm going to take a quick power nap or take a walk or do something, because I'm just feeling a little bit anxious, and I think that'll help me out a little bit. And my son will be like, oh, all right, Dad, I'm going to take a nap too, because I'm feeling the same way. And so, like, he learned firsthand from me. And so, dads, it's important, know your own emotions, be able to label your own emotions, and sometimes that can be a difficult or a painstaking process, but man, there's a lot of healing in that too. So I would always encourage fathers to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Next bullet point was show empathy. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
I think one key point that's really important though is being empathetic to your children. And again, that goes back to that puzzle piece analogy that we were talking about. You've really got to empathize with somebody in their own shoes before you set a standard for them. So that's important. But fifth one would be to teach healthy coping skills, and that's what we're gonna kind of dive into here shortly. And then the sixth one is let's see. Yeah, I've gone over that. So that's puzzle pieces. Yes. Yeah. So
I want to say empathy is not something a lot of people understand.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should probably, because like for me that's like one of my biggest weaknesses.
Who don't realize. Yeah, there's people who don't realize they're not being empathetic towards someone.
Okay, Dustin, you got any ideas on that?
It's tough. I mean, and it's not his fault. He's only 2, but my son really doesn't have a whole lot of empathy. He just doesn't get it. He has his own needs. He knows what he wants. And, I try very hard. So I'll say, hey, buddy, can I have a hug? No, I don't want to give you a hug. Right. He wants to go play with his trucks. So I'll go, I need a hug. I'm sad. And he'll kind of get it and go, oh, you're sad. Okay. Well, I'll come give you a hug then. I don't know. I'm kind of faking being sad. So I don't know. but at the same time, I think it helps him understand, hey, when someone is sad, they need a hug. And he's actually a pretty good kid. I'll see him at daycare, go and comfort another kid when they're sad. And I think in some ways, some of the modeling behavior that I taught him, may have given him some of those skills. So that's kind of mine.
Yeah, I think everybody has empathy. In fact, from what I've seen statistically, 98% of people have the ability to empathize with others. But I think it's just the courage to display it, or the awareness to display it, or
some just don't
it.
Care.
Well,
you said they have the ability. That doesn't mean they're doing it.
Sure, but I mean, the few exceptions are usually psychopaths, narcissists, or
sociopaths and stuff.
Yeah. So.
But those people can, like Justin said, they know that they're hurting people. They just don't care, right? Whereas there are that small percentage who don't realize it and still do it anyways. But I think most babies and children, until an older age than you would think, are basically little psychopaths, right? I mean, until they're 4 or 5 years old, you have to teach them empathy. Kids don't naturally come with that.
Yeah.
I think it's like worth pointing out, like our society is really good at sympathy, but not empathy, and they're very different things. Like sympathy is like you see someone down in a hole, and you're like, oh wow, that really sucks down there, and then you like walk on. right? But empathy is you dive down into the hole with them and say, "Hey, how you doing? You know,
Yeah.
this is not fun, right? I'm right here with you." And then kind of responding to it's the puzzle piece thing, right? You're thinking about it from their perspective and feeling what they feel. There's
Right.
her name's Brene Brown. She's a pretty like popular, she does TED Talks and that kind of thing, and she's in this arena too of like emotional health and things like that. And that's like she's real big on defining empathy and why it's so important, especially like in relationships. So whether it's with your kids or with your spouse, um, you know, being able to display actual empathy versus sympathy is like for me that's not a natural strength for me. Ask my wife, she'll tell you it's something I've had to put a lot of effort into being better at as a husband, and thankfully I learned it as a husband before we had a child. But yeah, I mean, I think our natural reaction, at least in a lot of places in our country or modern culture, is sympathetic, like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, and then but I'm going to go continue on with my life because I don't want to be feeling what you're feeling right now. I think that's a huge distinction that's worth pointing out. And so like think about it with your kids, right? To them, the spilled milk is a big deal because they don't know that you can just go get more. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
those
mean-
those high emotions are painful.
Right. Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
feeling it for real. They don't
right,
know any
and
better. Yeah.
when we have those same emotions, again, it's a sympathy. It's our own perspective. Those aren't bad emotions. We cry or we get upset all the time and we control it. That's what most parents say to their kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, but no, they're in a state of mind where it's actually painful for them. So
Right.
it's like you have to understand or at least empathize when you're teaching them. Yes, you can still teach them. Obviously, you don't want to coddle them, but I mean, you
Right.
can still teach them with empathy. Like, okay, I understand that's painful and that hurts, but this, and
Right.
so
Well,
yeah,
I think
agree.
part of it's like validating, right? If you
Mhm.
don't validate the feeling they're having, you're essentially
Yeah.
teaching them that it's not okay to feel that ever,
Oh, yes.
which is also not healthy. So
Yeah.
it's like it's a balance of you. I think you got to meet them in the moment and then demonstrate how to move past said emotion or crying about.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of see empathy as the ability to see someone else's viewpoint or perspective and then reacting to it in a positive way, whether that be, emotionally for the person, give them a hug, whatever the case may be. But seeing someone's viewpoint and being in it with them is the biggest thing, because there's a lot of people who will be like you said, George, they'll have sympathy. Oh, that's horrible.
Mhm.
Yeah. Your dog just died. Cool. Like, let me go on about my day,
Right.
or Facebook. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Prayers lifted.
Mhm.
That's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
They don't
Praying,
call you and say, hey,
Yeah.
thoughts and
you want
prayers.
to talk? Like,
Yeah.
what's going
Yeah.
on? Like, how are
Right.
you feeling right now? Like, that's empathy. When you pick up the phone and you say,
Mhm.
hey, I saw you lost your dad. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Come have a
Yeah,
beer with me. Come do
absolutely.
this,
Right.
like, whereas other people are just like, oh my gosh, I'm pretending to care.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's
empathy
almost
is
like
definitely
the
something
whole
missing.
social media version is just virtue signaling. Basically,
Oh,
it's like look
gosh,
how
don't even
nice
get me
I am,
started.
right? And it's like
Yeah, I care. No, you don't. Because if you cared, you'd be here.
A lot of
Yeah.
dads feel that way. A lot of dads feel like they're unheard and
Mhm.
and that they're not empathized with. And you made such a beautiful point. Emotional validation is probably one of the most lacking forms of respect that I see on a daily basis. Like
Mhm.
people just don't validate your emotions. Yeah, your emotions might be extreme or they might be weird or different for somebody else, but they're still valid emotions and you're still feeling them intensely from your own perspective. So yeah, again, putting yourself in their shoes and understanding that before you say something is huge. It's
Yeah.
such an important aspect.
I agree.
It's really hard too. Like I think the way that we think as men, right? We just naturally we're problem solvers. We just
Mhm.
naturally think of like how do I fix broken thing, right? I've had to really learn how to. It's the puzzle piece thing, but even like with friends and with my wife and everything's like I've experienced potentially more challenge in my life in certain arenas than they have. So like
Mhm.
me being able to handle whatever the thing is much different than them being able to. And if I don't demonstrate empathy or make myself feel the empathy for them, I'm gonna respond very cold and like, oh well, it's no
Mhm.
big deal, blah blah blah, you just do this, and then that's like totally shutting them down and doesn't it makes them feel even worse because then they feel like they're wrong for not being able to handle it as well or something like that. So, which is just not, it's just straight up not true. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
sorry, we kind of went off on a tangent there. But
Oh, yeah, that's great. Let's see. Dustin, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that? Or?
I mean, being an empath is exhausting. I think that's the reason a lot of people don't do it.
Yeah.
If you spend 2 or 3 hours, you're in a good mood, and you talk to your depressed friend, chances are you're not going to be in as good of a mood. And it's a big gift to give to someone who's in a darker place, to give them your time and really walk in their shoes. And it's a sacrifice you have to make. It's your time and your energy that you're giving to someone in that kind of situation. And it's worth it. It's great to help other people, but at the same time, if you're coming for an empty cup, you can only do so much of it.
Right.
Yeah. You can't fill other people's cups if yours isn't full. Yeah. That's a great point.
That raises a great question. If you're on E, can you show empathy to someone else who's on E?
Probably not very much.
How much help can you?
Not effectively.
Yeah, probably not very effective. Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to balance your life with, like, the physical. And
that was my next point.
Yeah.
Well, and
if
I
you're
think
in a
that
good place most
also,
of the time, you can help others.
And I think where you're kind of going with this too is, like, as men, right? Like we've already talked about it. Dads feel exhausted or not heard or any of that kind of stuff. That's why it's so important to have, like, other guy friends in your life who can appreciate what you're going through, because there's just something about the way we connect as men when we're having a tough time. If you have let your armor down, that you're going to feel a lot more, like, invigorated and able to keep fighting the good fight more so than, even your spouse can provide. There's just something different about a strong friendship between men that charges our batteries in a different way. So I
would argue even more than among men, among fathers. I think the experience that the four of us have is very different than the experience of a man who doesn't have children. It just is.
Yeah. And I think I'll leave that part with a good quote from George W. He said, "At our best, we practice empathy, imagining ourselves in the lives and circumstances of others. This is the bridge across our nation's deepest divisions." And so I think that's a great point, because it brings us together. It's the bridge between the differences of people and cultures. And I think that's a beautiful point.
Cool.
Now,
look, a squirrel.
But so one of the things that Meg talked about, and there was a quote. She said, "The creator of all, the source of all power and wisdom, has one great desire, to be called Father, and ye share that name with God." And so I thought that was such a beautiful point in the book, because basically what it's saying is, if you're a dad, whether you know it or not, you're a hero to your kid. And this is like the kind of reassurance that we need on a daily basis. Now, let's dive a little bit into coping mechanisms. Okay. I think teaching kids new strategies is great. So one of the things that I was looking at was making coping skills fun, specifically for my children. So, like, one of the ways that we do it, Summer and I, we'll go on afternoon bike rides or walks, and 9 times out of 10, the kids are going to just end up playing with other kids, but they're still getting that mindset of, it's the afternoon, we're tired or we're kind of fussy and we're pent up in the house. Let's go for a walk or a run or a hike, that kind of thing. And then sometimes if they're stuck in the house because it's storming, we'll blast some music and, let them dance around and run and, just kind of get them phased out. But I feel like there's so many kind of different things that you can do like that, example wise, that helps kids actively or physically cope with certain things. And I feel like that's such an important thing going into adulthood, because, when you're battling depression or anxiety, the gym or being just any kind of physical activity. And I think Dustin could probably touch on this as a doctor more than anybody, but physical activity is such a huge thing for our mental health. So.
Yeah. Oh, it's super important. Definitely. I know for me, the best coping mechanism I've found for my son is his head is everywhere. He's stressed out. He's concerned. He's crying. If I can grab him by the shoulders and stare directly at him and make good eye contact with him, that immediately calms him down. That's something that, at that age, the exercise or taking a deep breath, that kind of stuff. They don't know how to do that, right? They don't
Yeah.
know how to, they have these big feelings and they don't know how to handle it. So
Right.
if you can distract them from those big feelings and focus on them and have a happy, calm, relaxed face, he's going to understand everything's going to be okay. And whatever was really stressing him out is not as big of a deal. So with young kids, especially, that's been the most important thing for me, is to make that eye contact and not allow my fear, my anxiety, and my stress to show, but to show him that we're calm, we're happy, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and it's like important to get down on their level, right? And then eye contact is huge. Like even amongst adults, right? Like one of the most important ways you can tell a person that you care about what they're saying, whether it's work or friendships or whatever, is to look them straight in the eyes. And for some reason, a lot of people are really uncomfortable with that. But if you make direct eye contact that says like, I see you, I hear you, like not crossing arms, but instead leaning in and listening to them, stuff like that. There's a lot of like, your kids pick up on that too. But what I think, Dustin, what you were describing is a term called grounding too. It's like, it's something that takes them out of that moment. It's like a lot of like high anxiety people have to find like grounding techniques to take them out of the moment. Sometimes it's like you just clench your fist or you touch something that's smooth or whatever, but there's a lot of tools like that. So that's awesome. I should probably do that more with my own daughter, is just get down her level and just look at her and it'd be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take that.
As somebody who suffers from a lot of anxiety myself, that couldn't be a truer statement for me. Because, man, there's a breathing exercise. It's like I'm always catching myself doing that. Like Justin was saying earlier, listening to calming music or music that just kind of puts me in a mood. Sometimes if I'm really super anxious or nervous, because like if something's out of my control, personally, I turn to my faith. So like I'll read my Bible, I'll pray. I'll anchor myself in the present moment and just be confident that I can't control certain things, and what I can control, I've already, worked towards. And so at that point, that kind of helps me accept the acceptance phase there, but also just kind of calming. So yeah, that's a great point.
There's a great book called Breath that talks about how every major religion, the singing among Gregorian monks, the Buddhist monks, Muslims, Jews, all of these people have the same cadence to their breathing when they're singing or meditating. It's absolutely fascinating. And these are places as far away as Asia, North America, all these different places develop these exact same cadences and patterns to their breathing while they're communing with God, essentially. And it's all that same pattern. So however you do it, it works really well. It'll get you where you need to be and find that calm.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the things I do for my daughter, she gets scared at night times and she'll call out for one of us, and I'll teach her to hug her stuffed animal. And that's just something that's right beside her. So even when mom and dad are on the way to the room, she still has that comfort. So she's seeking comfort with something. And for Ben, I'll tell him, he's one of those kids that has sensory sensitivity issues. Like if he's in a big, loud, crowded space with people yelling and talking real loud and just the volume's real high, I will tell him to come with me and we'll go to a quiet place, or I'll have him, actually plug his ears so that he brings that level back down to a calming, level. And I think that helps a lot too. So yeah, I see that, But yeah, for me, I think personally, just as a dad, spending time outside, like I can't tell you how many times this past few weeks that I've just sat down and looked at the clouds and the sunset and just kind of just relaxed, and listened to the sounds of nature around me, because nature is one of the big things for me that just really kind of brings me out of that rough element and keeps me calm. So that's something I would recommend for sure.
Yeah, but just being outside, right? Like one, it's good for your health.
Absolutely.
Your immune system gets stronger, all that kind of stuff. But there's also a huge mental component to it that I think, I just straight up think that we were created to be in the outdoors at least a little bit. I'm not a huge, I don't go camping or that kind of stuff, but like we'll go on walks. I like to be outside, go to the pool, be in the sun, all that kind of stuff. I think there's just an innate need as a human being that it's just good for you, period. So
absolutely.
Yeah, we started doing, especially now while the weather's nice, we'll go on like a family walk through the neighborhood, just a quick little around the block type of thing, and do it around like 7 p.m. and it's not too hot, and I think it helps kind of calm Raylan down and get ready for bed a little bit too. So
Yeah, and I think one of the beautiful things about that is when you get them in those kind of states, when a kid is in a calmer state, one, they learn. So like when you're trying to discipline a kid, don't discipline them, fathers, when they're upset, because when they're in a high upset emotional state, their brain is in a completely different, literally a different hemisphere of thinking, where they're the thought of trying to obey and learn is it's almost impossible. You have to get them calm before. So dads, one of the best things I can tell you is, like Dustin said, get on their eye level, get them calm, even when you're frustrated and they've done something bad. Then once they're calm, teach them, let them see what they did, help them to fix it, learn, that kind of thing, and move on. But going back to being outside and walking, man, I can't tell you how much more my kids have opened up to me emotionally when they're in a calm state. I'm like, how was your day? Because that's when I can really get them to start talking about stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important, because being able to have open dialogue with your kids, especially going into the teenage years, is going to be so vital, because, they'll go to their peers, and peer orientation compared to parent orientation is a completely different things. Peer orientation involves drugs and sex and all the things that Meg talks about in the book, and there's a lot of consequences to all that, as we know. So, so that's why we do a lot of the outdoor stuff, is just to kind of connect with them on a good level.
Yeah, the thoughts you have and the emotional connections you make when you're moving are completely different than when you're sitting. The ancient Greeks used what they called the peripatetic method when they taught. So Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, none of them sat in a room with 20 students and talked. They would walk around in the agora and communicate while they moved around, and it completely changed the nature of it. I wish we did more of that in modern schooling.
Yeah,
I think the thought of sticking kids for 6 hours in front of their teacher in a chair, with no physical education is a recipe for disaster. Get out there,
especially
walk
boys.
with your kids.
Like, it's just
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't sit still. I was like always tapping my foot, and I don't have ADD or any of that kind of stuff. I'm a doer. I just need to be on the move, So
I still can't. I struggle if put me for an hour to go read something. It's
like
tough.
at like work, on these conferences and stuff, I'm like,
yeah, and I wonder how many boys. And this is one of
the whole time
questions.
I just can't.
And that's one of the questions Meg poses, is how many boys have been misdiagnosed, with attention and hyper disorders, because they're locked down. But
we're gonna get like way off in the weeds here. But I mean, the amount of kids who are probably on medication who should not be is probably astronomical. I mean, I think 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we're gonna look back on it and be like, wow, that was a really dark time in medical practice. I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, in Britain back in the, I think, 50s and stuff, they would just give pregnant mothers this one, it's like aspirin, just take it all the time. And it was like, babies are born with like no appendages and stuff. And it was a direct result of this pill and everything. And it's like, So it just makes you wonder, like, how many people are, and then you're suppressing their actual feelings and stuff. And so then they never learn to associate, like we were talking about, identifying what it is that they're feeling and their need to be doing, right?
Right. And so going back to the topic here, the next one would be creating creative coping strategies. Would be like writing a poem, making up a song, teaching them to play an instrument, having them journal or just express things to you verbally. Like with my daughter, we play with Play-Doh. With my son, I play with Legos. He just put together this last week. He has, I could probably go get it here in a minute, but it's a Lego robot, like a transformer type robot. It's 2,300 pieces, and we got it put together in about, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. And he did, I'd say 95% of the legwork. So, but like, it's just one of those things that it gives him, something he can turn to, and he knows that's a hobby that he can turn to when he needs to cope with something, because it's kind of one of those things that just kind of pulls him away from something that's making him upset. But
my wife texted me and said it's thalidomide is what they were given to people.
Nice.
In the UK and back in the day. But
thank you.
I'm gonna chip in one more time here. The creative ones for me growing up, my guitar was absolutely like a huge outlet for me.
Yeah.
You know, I get so into like playing my guitar and like tuning out the world that like if someone came and opened my bedroom door, it'd like freak me out. You know, I'd have like legit like jump scare panic attack feeling because I was like so in another realm. Yeah, I mean that's like when my parents got divorced and everything. I mean, I retreated to playing my guitar and kind of working out feelings that way,
Yeah.
and I think that definitely helped me a lot because I was still able to do pretty well in school. Even grades dipped a little bit when they first got split up and everything, but I think I would have gone crazy if I didn't have my guitar.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize when I say music as a coping mechanism, they think, oh yeah, listen to something happy when you're sad. No. I had a therapist. Yeah, well, no, I mean, I had a therapist who told me, listen to what you associate with the current thing you're feeling. So if I'm sad, I listen to sad music. If I'm angry, I listen to metal or something just vicious. If I'm happy and like a great mood, I'll listen to like house trance, something uplifting, something like that. But you need to associate the sounds that you have with an outlet. And that's kind of what I did. It kind of clicked that way. So like when I was going through my divorce, I was really big on NF, man. NF he's a Christian rapper. In case you don't know him, he's actually a recent father last year or so. Incredible.
He sings that song "Prideful," right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good
he
one.
is. His music videos have like little nuances and genius things to them, and he carries one thing into the next music video, and it's always a message. And his music lyrically is untouchable. I don't care what anyone says. I think he's better than Slim Shady, Eminem. So he has been through a lot in his life. Lost his mom to drug overdose, and just crappy lifestyles, and just relationships that were not good for him. We're always around him, and so I can relate to a lot of the music he says. There's one specifically I challenge anybody who's struggling with emotions right now. This is a guy who gets it and he turns to God, which is a great outlet as well. And he talks, there's a song it's from a CD called Mansions. And oh man, he talks about how he hides his fear in one room and is upset in another, and how he wants to burn the whole place down. And it's incredible. But like when you listen to this and you understand that you're not alone, this is my point. Dads, you're not alone. Like, if you're upset, you're sad, and you need a mechanism. Music can be a great outlet. So like we said, the gym, obviously, but reaching out to someone, hell, reach out to us.
What's the song called? Because I'll just link it in the chat.
So look up the CD Mansions. I'm drawing a blank right now. I'm sorry. I wanted to say that's the actual name of the song. Give me 2 seconds. I'm looking it up right now.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, no big deal. Yeah, Mansion. Yeah, and the song's name is Mansion.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah, it's off the album Mansion, but it's called Mansion.
So self-titled.
It's
Here, I'll put it in the chat.
It's that song and the song called All I Have. And whew, man, I'm telling you, when you listen to the sorrow, he actually cries in one of the songs. Like you truly understand the depths that people can go to, and that's, I guess, the other thing about this podcast is if anyone needs someone to talk to, us four are always here for a dad that, is having issues. So
we can pin this to our Discord.
Yep,
absolutely.
We've been building that and getting that prepared. So
set up a Discord that you can hop in and chat with. So let me make a link to that.
Also, if you're happy, we'd love to have you in the Discord as well. That's also good.
Yeah.
If you're happy,
good feedback. I don't want to hear you suck because I'll find out where you live.
That's right.
All right.
Good point.
That's a joke.
So getting back on the rails here, the next set of strategies are social coping strategies. So one of the ways that I can socially cope would be like calling a friend, FaceTiming with you guys or buddies, FaceTiming with some of my family. I read books. That's a really good one. Sharing my feelings with someone I trust, like my wife. I share a lot of emotions and feelings with her. And that's something that has been something I've had to really work on, because as a guy, when you've always fixed everything yourself, when you feel those emotions, you usually just want to self-isolate and then
Yeah.
cope with whatever, usually an addiction or something, to get through it. But, you should really be learning to, again, emotionally label and express yourself with awareness, and do it with somebody that you trust. And if you're not comfortable with your wife, or she doesn't validate those emotions with you, find somebody that does, like a friend or a brother or a family member or somebody. And so those social coping strategies are amazing. There's
Right.
a lot of avenues that you can do there.
Well, and doing that one with your wife builds intimacy too.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of what we talked about last week. The tender warrior concept is, let your armor down. Your wife should be your most intimate relationship, right? So you've got to find the courage to just be honest. Hey, I'm really struggling with this, or this really scares me, or whatever. And you can let your guard down with your wife. It's
Right.
okay. So that I think that was something I learned probably a little bit too late, that I can just be honest with the fact that certain things I'm struggling with or whatever, and that can build a lot of trust in your relationship. But it lets your wife connect to you on a level that women are innately more geared towards, which is emotional in nature. I don't say that as an insult. That's they're more finely tuned to be aware of that. So you're kind of giving them a chance to use their strength to help you. So now, not everything. I will say that with like a caveat is this is also why you need strong male friends in your life of varying ages and experiences, because there's certain topics that like you need to just go have a man's input on also. But
That's true.
Don't hide. Don't like hide from your wife or whatever. You can.
Yeah, no, but then there's a healthy way and healthier people to reach out to sometimes in certain situations. So
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's something you may not be able to take to your wife, because like we were talking about earlier, maybe she's on empty and she's not going to respond well.
Sure. I'm just saying, like, don't. There's kind of there's a dual purpose with the social coping one of with your wife, with your spouse to, it's your coping mechanism, but it can also build intimacy in your relationship. Which, if you have a strong marriage, you're going to be better parents for your kid. So it's kind of it's a cycle that supports health as opposed to a detrimental cycle. That's how I use that word.
Yeah. I love it. Got him.
I got you.
Yeah, George, I think there's a few things that your wife should know that nobody else knows. I think that's an essential part of intimacy.
100%.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
If you don't have that, go find something you don't know, or that she doesn't know, that nobody else does. And, go tell her, go build that bond. Definitely. Yeah.
And so and I think that's the other thing too, is like, we're really getting off on a tangent, but intimacy is so much more than sex, right? There's so much depth to your relationship that will exist outside of just the physical act of sex, that that's a part of intimacy, but it's not the whole thing. And again, like, I go back to the building that strong kind of pillar of your marriage. Your kids see that and they feed off that too, and that helps them be more emotionally regulated and all that kind of stuff. If you have a big bad fight with your spouse, then your kids are obviously going to be like, oh, what's going on? So
Yeah,
we're all guilty of it, I'm sure. But anyway, sorry, didn't mean to go off the rails there.
No, you're good. So, Dustin, did you have anything, or Justin? If you guys don't, I'll move on to the next point. But wanted to see, make sure.
I think they hit the nail on the head.
Awesome. All right. So the next coping strategies that can shift your mindset, and these are some of the things that was talked in the book, was grounding. So again, focusing your energy on the present moment. And one of the things I've heard on a lot of different therapy-based places like Healthy Gamer GG, those kind of places on YouTube, is focus, even though you might have 15 to 20 different problems, or your child might have 15 to 20 different problems, teach them to focus on 3. Okay. Because anything past 3, you're not going to have the energy to focus on, and try to make them closest to the present moment as possible. So like, say, for example, if you're anxious about global warming, you're having issues with your wife, and your kid was super upset earlier, and maybe a couple other issues like the house needs to be cleaned and you need to get a workout in. Well, climate, although it may validly cause you anxiety is something long term. You need to move that to the back burner. So you got to learn to prioritize, and you got to teach your kids to prioritize their problems, anchor themselves in the present moment, and grab those 3 problems and start working on those first. And then once they get a little bit of success with one, they steamroll the next, and it kind of builds up confidence. So grounding's a really important one. And then one thing that I really loved was practicing reframing. So this concept of reframing is amazing because, like, my son will say something, and I will reframe it in a way that's either more respectful, or I'll reframe it in a way that teaches him a healthier way of looking at it in his mind. So he'll say, my sister rejected me with this toy that I wanted to give her, and I was trying to be sweet, and she hates me. And so I have to reframe it as, well, son, she just might not be in the mood to play with that toy. Or, she might be having a different preference, but it's not something that's personally attacking you. So I'll reframe it, and then I'll express how he should see it from a different perspective. And I think that reframing helps so much in grounding emotional control. And I'm sure there's things that you guys have done as well. Like George just put up.
Yeah, I took this from your notes, but it kind of it's a good example, I think.
And like this example says, instead of I am stuck at home, try thinking I'm lucky that I am healthy and safe at home. So yeah, again, you're reframing it and you're structuring it in a positive manner. You're focusing on the positivity, and you can really rewire your brain to think positively, even from high traumas and a lot of negativity. And I'm sure you guys can touch on some of this stuff from your pasts, but I know personally I've had to do that a lot with certain things. Like, I would like to think of myself as an optimist now, and I'm trying to do that for my son and my daughter as well. So
yeah, well, that's really important too. I think that's something that is huge for us as dads to really take this one to heart, is because they're going to watch how you talk about things. So if we are setting the tone of negativity, then your kids are going to feed off that really heavily. And so you can have the positive effect of forcing the positive mindset, and they'll start feeding off that too. So this is a really big one where your leadership role comes into play as a dad, leading with your mindset.
Absolutely. So speaking about coping mechanisms, one of the things that I just really think about when I listen to a lot of these books is, when you learn and you grow yourself, you have a chance to stop and break the cycle of generational trauma and generational behaviors that are unhealthy. And I wanted to ask you guys, in your past, if y'all don't mind sharing, if it's not something overly personal, how have y'all broken the cycle in your own families with generational trauma?
Any takers?
That's a tough one. I mean, I've had such a perfect, healthy life that I can't think of it. It's just no drama at all. I think, yeah, exactly. I mean, my father was not around, so it's a pretty simple one for me. I'm going to do everything I can to be around for my son. Unless I'm dead, I'm going to be there for him. That's the only thing that would stop me. And even then, there's life insurance, and I can financially take care of him. So
hey, and even then, we're here to help him too.
No, I appreciate that. Absolutely.
Not me,
no. Smart man. He's a lot. So that's a big one. Yeah. Is no matter what, I will be there for my son. And that is something I'll instill in him as well. When he has children, that's his number one goal. You got to be there for your kids. And I think that's a cycle that, I want to make sure I start, from day one here.
Beautiful.
I think I'll go next. I guess for me, my wife and I are breaking the whole divorce cycle. We're both children of divorce, and statistically, if you're a child of divorce, you're more likely to divorce yourself. But we've been close. Not gonna lie, we almost did, but we decided to work it out. So, that takes both people putting in the work to make that happen. So, Divorce, I would argue, is probably one of the biggest generational traumas there can be. So at least for
Mhm.
now, we're still going strong. We were actually looking at planning for next year for our 10-year anniversary, making a big trip somewhere. So
Nice.
Awesome.
we're still keeping on, keep on keeping on.
We'll be there, buddy. We can't wait to join you.
Yeah, right.
Give them rounds of applause.
We're
That's
going
right.
to Amarillo, Texas. You
Oh,
guys
that's
can have a lot of fun out there.
Amarillo by morning.
Definitely not going to Amarillo. Have you ever been there? Side note, have you ever been through there?
Oh yeah, we've been.
And if I offend anyone in Amarillo, Texas, it is probably one of the most bleak places I've ever driven through. It is nothing but mud. It's cows and mud and nothing else. It is.
Some
I'm
people
sorry,
love
buddy.
that.
That's not mud.
Well, yeah.
No, I don't think I really had any. I'd say my father had generational stuff that he stopped. My grandfather was a alcoholic, abusive, just horrible things. I mean, he literally died in front of my dad at the dinner table when my dad was 9, and my dad said it was a blessing.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. And then, his father-in-law died when he was 13, and he loved his father-in-law. He was a military man, and just a lot of crappy cards played to my dad, but he never made excuses. He just did great things. He was a hard worker, and I've never not had my dad love us and just be wrong. Sorry, my kiddo's going nuts.
Duty calls.
Yeah, man.
I think I can continue on there for him, but yeah, my dad had a lot of things that he could have used as excuses, and carried on a lot of things, and he didn't. For me personally, I think there's a lot of things that I feel might have been generational, that I fixed. Just one of them is being able to have a sit down conversation, even when your emotions can feel high. Like a lot of my family just kind of sweeps things under the rug, but I'm the kind of person that wants to address it, even if it is later when people are cool. But me, I've learned the emotional regulation to sit down, even when I'm angry, and talk through stuff and have hard conversations, because I feel like hard conversations are like one of the backbones to healthy relationships. And so I think that's one of the things I'm trying to break as a familial cycle. But regardless of whatever you're trying to break generationally, I think for me personally, one of the most beautiful things is that whatever you're doing and you're working towards with your children, it's an emotional legacy for them. So you're leaving a legacy for your children, and you always have to ask yourself, what kind of legacy am I leaving? So if you haven't started on trying to break these things, go through these steps that we've talked about earlier in the podcast, and work your way up to that. And then, change the course of history for the rest of your bloodline. And man, I'm telling you, the rest of your bloodline will be blessed for it, because one good man can change generations. And I strongly believe that. And so dads, just be encouraged, be the hero. And I feel like that's such an important thing.
Yeah, and I think you even put it in your notes too. It's like, start small, and it's okay, just like a little bit at a time. It's a marathon,
right?
And you're not gonna magically be a better person overnight. It's a process, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, every positive step you're taking is making a difference in the long run. So you may not feel like it in the moment, but.
So one of the things I wanted to touch on next, since we've kind of gotten through most of the main points, was question number 3 was, dads, what are your hopes for me? And let's mute him. There we go. All right. And her question, Meg's question, dads, what are your hopes for me, is it's a great question. And I thought about that a lot, because like one of the things she was talking about was, one of the best ways to help your child is to help them be hopeful, and is to talk to them about their future, especially with like teenage kids, because so many kids think that their life is like 0 to 25, and they really don't have a tendency to look past 25. And so they try to pack in as much as they can in those teenage years, like alcohol and sex and all these bad things. But it's like, if you make them hopeful for a good future and you have them plan out their own future, I mean, you can kind of guide them, but let them plan it on their own. I feel like if they have that hope and that plan, that kind of makes them have a bigger picture. Like, I don't want to have premarital sex because it could ruin my chances of doing this for myself, or this, or, that kind of thing. And so, I think that's a beautiful point that she asked was, what are your hopes for me? Because your kids want you to be hopeful for them and have confidence in them and be proud for the possibilities that they might have moving forward. And I thought that was beautiful for me. So,
but also
Yeah.
being empathetic there, right? I mean, there's the classic, no son of mine will be a painter. You're going to go be a
Right.
doctor, and the kid's like, but I love art, Dad.
Right,
So you don't
right.
want that either. But
Then you break his paintbrush, and he's like, ah,
Speaking of
generational trauma. No.
yeah, exactly.
No.
But yeah, no, I think in a broad sense, having hopes and
Oh.
goals, I want you to be happy. I want you to be independent. I want you to be successful. Those are absolutely key elements that you do want to instill in your children. Definitely.
yeah.
I think promoting someone's uniqueness is definitely one of the key factors in that as well. Like, everybody's unique in their own way, and nurturing the good things and getting rid of the bad is definitely a positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things she said is, one of the best things a father can do is dream with his kids. Fathers shouldn't set specific expectations. Rather, they should help the child craft the specifics of his or her future. Then he can let his child know that his job as a father is to link arms with him and help them get there. And so I thought that was such a beautiful thing. Just an encouraging thing. And like, I can actually visualize that in my head, like with my kid, each of my kids. And like, I'll kind of picture my daughter, growing up doing like gymnastics or ballerina or soccer. And then, like my son getting into, basketball and soccer and all these other different things, and chess, and, just random things like, what's he going to do and what's he going to get good at? And like, that's exciting as a dad. And I feel like that encourages us to be more positively reinforcing our children and building that hope and just kind of reminding us daily for it. So,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, something I just want to touch on. Obviously, you guys heard the baby crying. You can see the monitor where my wife is currently being a rock star and taking care of little man. So one of the things I want to touch on earlier, we were talking about coping mechanisms you can teach kids. Well, actually, infants can learn them as well. Sounds and touch and things like that. So one of the things that we did was we got one of those shushers. There's like a little shusher that you put in their crib when they're a baby, and it teaches them that when the shushing is going on, everything's okay. And so when he wakes up from a nightmare, he's going nuts, we'll just shh, 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 shh. And it works like a charm, man. And then like this time he lost it because he's hey, he lost it because he's learning to sleep on his stomach right now. And he's been doing wonderfully at it, but now that he's sick and he's draining, he's kind of not enjoying it so much. So yeah, wife's being a rock star, putting him on his side and trying to help, get him where he needs to be. But it's one day at a time, man.
It's not easy. Oh, those
No, and
colds are
that's
brutal, man.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, the best advice I could give to new fathers is it gets better every week. Especially those first 4 to 6 weeks, they are not easy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, we've been doing good with him and trying to teach him certain things, and she's had him on an amazing schedule, and he's rocking it out. So
Awesome. Well, I wanted to go through a couple quotes from Meg and just kind of open the floor up to just any kind of discussion based on these. We can go on tangents to do anything. And I think one of my favorite ones was, there's two of them specifically. The first one was talking about humility. And she said, humility, however, prevents bullying and being bullied. When your son or daughter recognizes that all humans have equal value and never esteems himself or herself above another, they don't worry about asserting superiority or taking seriously a bully's taunts. So what do you guys think about that? I love that personally.
Well, I just want to say, if you're a Green Bay Packer fan, you're not as valuable as other human beings, so you have to take that into account. But otherwise, everyone else is equal and good. So
well, at least my team has won a Super Bowl in this century. So,
ouch.
So it's you might want to maybe do some self-reflection, before lashing out. I think we talked about that earlier on in the podcast, right? So
fair. Okay, fair.
Yeah. But she also says that he or she knows that our worth is not in what we do, what we have, or what we are capable of being, but in the fact that we are human. And I love that, because God created us all equal. And I think that's a beautiful thing to remind both ourselves as fathers, but our children, to instill in them.
Yeah.
Is that no matter what their position in life, both socioeconomically or just any aspect of their life, they need to understand that every other human being was made in God's image, and that they are equal, and they deserve equal love, and humility is a huge thing. I think it's such an important thing to teach our children to prevent bullying in the school systems and stuff. So.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome quote. I think there's a little more to it, I think, on like why kids bully others.
Well, sure.
Right. But yes, if you're humble and, treat other people as equals, it's obviously going
to. Y'all won't like my my solution to bullying.
Well, I mean,
I'm going to keep it to myself.
Well, I will also add this, that like being humble doesn't mean that you're weak.
No.
And in many cases, being humble takes greater strength than just lashing out.
Sure.
Yeah.
But at a certain point too, right, there is a line that you can draw, and if they cross that line, like,
sure,
make them pay.
I mean, righteous anger.
Well, you have the right to protect yourself, right? I mean, there's a difference between bullying
or your friends. And my son's gonna know that. He's gonna know anyone's mess with you or your kid, your other,
Well,
friends.
and again, right? We talked last week.
It's past words, then you have my utmost permission to take them out.
Well, I mean, standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves too. I think that's something we kind of talked about last week, especially as if you're raising boys to be men, right? Protecting is one of the pillars, and so standing up for those who can't. In that case, right? That also stops bullying. The fastest way for a bully to stop is when someone finally stands up to them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like humility in a healthy environment is just one of those things that waters the plant that grows for the children in their minds. I mean, I understand that kids who are abused or have trauma situations will usually take that out on other children physically, but yeah, humility is such an important part of the empath and the other parts that we've discussed earlier. And so, yeah, I thought that was a beautiful quote. Moving on to
Brandon,
my next. Sure.
How do you plan to teach your children to be humble?
Oh, that's a great one. One of the things I do is I make them realize in anything that they do that they have to work hard and that they're not going to be the best regardless. I mean, they can be great at it, and they can be one of the best, but there's always going to be somebody better. Like, look at Kobe, man. Kobe was a great example of that. That man, he would get beat in something and he'd go and work 4 times as hard as that person. Like there's stories of him talking about how he was in the gym from 4 a.m. to the afternoon, and the guy would keep showing up and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I'm getting better than y'all, I'm putting in more hours, and so that's humility. And so with Ben, like if he gets cocky with something, I'll say, well, let's ground that a little bit, And so like I'll go through a situation where it's like, it's good to be confident, but let's not do it at the expense of somebody else, or let's not do it at the expense of being ignorant. So like I'll just kind of, again, I'll guide or try to show him where he can be humble in a certain situation. And obviously it is situational. So, but like, I'll tell you, humility is something he learned on that skateboard. I told him, you're good at standing on it, but that curb told him otherwise. And, I mean, life will present a lot of humility to you. So,
yeah, it will.
But, I mean, it's so that's funny. Like humility it's such a fine line between, being humble and being confident. It's a hard line especially if you're competitive.
Well, I
Like
think,
some
but
people,
confidence, I think that was internal, right? Like actual confidence, like trash talking and all that kind of stuff is
oh, well, that's
a
different.
lot of times that's projection, right? It's
Yeah.
actually the absence of confidence in a lot of places. But I think you can be overly humble and extremely confident at the exact same time. Like, so in Taekwondo, we had to 3 rules we had to recite every time was respect your parents, believe in yourself, and then be humble in victory and honorable in defeat at tournaments and stuff. And I
It
was
wasn't
never
strike fast, strike hard, and
no,
strike
it wasn't.
first.
But I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was pretty good. I was pretty good. I won most of the tournaments I went into. I never walked in the ring was like scared of my opponent or that kind of stuff. To me, I just didn't even like care who they were. I was just like, I'm gonna do my thing and I'm gonna fight my hardest and I'm gonna try and win. But I was always, even if I won, I was never like, oh, I'm so good, blah blah. I mean, one, my master probably would have taken a bamboo staff and hit me on the foot. I would have done that, but yeah, I mean, so I think like I was supremely confident. I wasn't arrogant, but I walked into the ring expecting or doing everything I could to mentally prepare to win every single match. And there was no fear or anything or doubt in my mind. Like that guy was going to have to actually beat me to win.
yeah.
But I was never cocky or any of that kind of stuff. And afterwards, it's a martial art, right? So you bow and you shake hands and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of respect still. There's no arrogance in that equation. But
I think
sorry,
that's the
didn't mean
key
to cut you off.
No, I think that's the key is having respect. But at the same time, if I smack a grand slam and you're a pitcher that I don't like, I'm bat flipping. I don't care. You're gonna know that I hit that home run, and I'm gonna trot around those bases in a not so nice way because it's competition's not a problem to have. It's when you're in. Well, I'm not gonna cuss, but when you're not being nice about it, that makes you not humble. Guilty as charged. I was that guy.
That's pride. Yeah.
I think entitlement is one of the biggest factors too. I think when you feel like you deserve things and you feel entitled to certain things, that is kind of the enemy of humility.
Yeah.
And I think I certainly, I know I struggle with this, I deserve this or I deserve that. And I have to get that out of my head and say, I don't deserve anything, at work or at, I deserve a basic respect and all that. But as far as, if I want to get something and I need it, I have to go get it myself. It's not because I deserve it or, just because I'm breathing doesn't mean I should get free money and, free stuff. Right. I mean, you have to go get it. And that's a real struggle that I think a lot of people, including myself, have with being humble is I deserve all these things. Why should I be humble? I deserve it all. It's tough.
Yeah. And mastering your craft and putting in countless hours, like Brandon said, Kobe, it's you kind of get the opportunity to be humble, but then there's times where you can kind of have a little fun with it. Cause I mean, if you work that hard, why not be able to, show those skill sets and be happy about it? That's my only thing. But I mean, I guess that's referencing sports. Everything else in life is not the same. Yeah. Sports is competitive. So let's just put that there. But
my beautiful wife has reminded me of my biggest slice of humble pie was failing Ranger school. So I'll exercise some humility right here. And I failed the land nav twice. So insert meme about lieutenants and land nav. But yeah, I mean, I was like, I never even considered failing. Right, I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm never gonna quit. And I'm gonna get through. And like, you fail the land nav, they don't hold you on. You're done. Like it's like okay, bye. And yeah, that was like a massive gut check moment for me of like, okay, am I gonna let this destroy me or am I gonna own it? And realize that I need to work really hard. And yeah, I mean, it was the entitlement thing, Dustin, right? Like, I've worked really hard. I'm going to be able to do this. And then, well, no, crap happens,
Yeah, there's always someone better.
Yeah, but I learned pretty quickly to just like not hide and try and like, because it's a little embarrassing, right? Like in the Army, it's, I have a lot of friends who are Rangers, right? And I didn't get to wear, I don't have the tab on my shoulder. So like you literally wear it on your uniform, on your arm. Ranger, and so anyone who's been through Ranger school gets to wear it. It's a mark of pride and shows that you're tougher than the rest type of thing. And so I didn't have it. So yeah, I mean, as a man, you feel a little bit emasculated by that. And
So,
I learned really quickly not to like hide from it and just be like, yeah, I failed and I learned a lot from it. And I think I'm a better man now because of it. And I actually, a lot of friends who were Rangers like, no, that's, I actually really like that answer. That's really good, man. So
yeah.
Yeah.
that's one personal example. So I'm not perfect. I suck. But yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks Whitney for reminding me of that.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. She's holding you accountable. I'm sure Ainsley's going to do something for me. But to go back to what Brandon said with Kobe, there was an interview with one of his teammates right after they lost the championship that year. He got there and he asked Kobe, he's like, well, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm just finishing my workout. And he's like, just finishing. And then he realized when he gave this speech after Kobe had passed away, he said, I've never seen anyone like that. He's like, here I am thinking I'm up before everybody. No one's going to be better than me. No one's going to out practice me. And then Kobe's finishing his workout like it's nothing. And he's going for the fourth time. Like he's going to do 3 more, later that day, and he's not going to stop. So, yeah, anyways, it's just one of those things. Humility comes when you least expect it. And that can be in the form of many, many things. And it's definitely good to be humble. And I guess to answer the question that Brandon asked, how are we going to teach our kids to be humble? It's just to understand that there's always someone bigger and better. There's always going to be opportunities to shine. But if you shine too hard in the face of others, they're not going to like you. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to get the recognition you deserve because you weren't humble. And you may even look like an idiot because sometimes you may do pretty well, but you didn't do as well as you were saying you were, and you're going to talk too much. Mm-hmm. And then you didn't talk the talk, you know what I mean? And it's going to be embarrassing. And it's like you said, sometimes, you think you deserve it, which is a hard pill to swallow as well. You work hard for something. You're like, I deserve this. But yeah, I'll pass it to Brandon. I think he's got an example.
Yeah. No, Dustin had asked me if there's examples in my life, and for my son or my daughter, like there was an instance this past week where I gave one of my laptops that I'm not using to a family friend who was in need, and my son said, "Dad, that's our laptop, and I should play on it, with games and stuff. Why are you giving it away?" And I said, well, son, God has blessed me with plenty, and he needed something, and I'm helping him because he deserves just as much as I do. And so that kind of really you could tell he was really thinking about the process of, wow, okay, I don't need to be selfish here. I need to be selfless. And, Meg talks about in the book how one of the dads is a doctor and goes to a third world country and takes his kids with him so that they see that human beings deserve, all human beings deserve treatment and care and love and respect. And like they watch their dad just shine and be a hero because the guy didn't have to go to a country. He could have just stayed at home making 6 figures being a doctor, but instead he spent his time in a third world country getting eat up by mosquitoes and helping people, not hurt anymore. And so that's another great example that humility can be taught is through our actions of self-sacrifice and serving. So I think that's one of the main things that I do to teach my children humility. Awesome. So the second quote that I really loved talks about, basically, I'll just read it. So it's every one of our sons leaves home at some point. They become men who can return to help us mothers in ways that no other human can. They can teach us how to live our lives better. If we hold on long enough and love them always, they come back to us. And so that's kind of like a multifaceted thing for me. Like what I took from that was how you model yourself to your wife teaches your son how to be to his wife. And how you ingrain these emotional regulations and these legacies, these emotional legacies in your children. Also, they carry that forth with them when they leave home. And so they become men. And it's like, what kind of man are they becoming? And what kind of man do you want them to become? And so, all those factors of your modeling and what you teach them and how you ingrain it in them, all those things are what they become. And so it's like, it's really important and vital for us to do the right thing and to do things with importance and impudence. So I love that quote personally. I was thinking about that for introspectively for a couple of days, just because I wanted to try to figure out how I wanted my son to act, and then when he comes back, like when my wife and I are old age and my son wants to help take care of my wife, that's a beautiful thing. That cycle kind of returns. And so, yeah, that's probably one of my favorite quotes from her for sure. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges as a father now versus 100 years ago is there's a good chance your kids are not going to live anywhere near you, and 90-95% of the FaceTime you're going to get with your kids might be before they're 18, and that time is super super precious as they're adults, and managing the excitement that they're going to live in a different city and be successful and all that, with the disappointment of knowing, you're probably not going to be able to spend that time with your kids that you might have hoped you'd be able to. I know I talked to my grandfather, got to see him a couple weeks ago, and that's always his biggest hope is, he wants to spend as much time with his kids as he can. And he never gets to, because they all, went to France and Florida and all over the place. So it's, it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I live nowhere near my family. They're all on the West Coast. So
yeah,
the time is precious.
Yeah.
all right. So I had one last quote, and then we'll just kind of have some open dialogue here and wrap things up. The last quote was, when you teach, and he's talking about strong father, strong daughter. So we're talking about a daughter in this case. So when you teach her always to think about other people, to put herself in their shoes, to know that everyone, her friends, neighbors, a sister, brother, is important, you'll give her the gift of friendship and living to the fullest as a caring social being. If you teach your daughter to be good rather than simply happy, she will become both. Teaching your daughter humility is a wonderful gift, and it can be taught only by example. And so again, that just drives home all that we've discussed about, modeling and humility. But man, teaching her the gift of friendship, that's such a beautiful concept to me. And then, the whole thing about teaching her to be good rather than simply trying to be happy. I mean, think about how many people are out there for themselves these days, selfishness and just trying to make themselves happy over the happiness of others. So yeah, it's just super beautiful. And I'm sure you guys can comment to that too, but
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I actually brought up a good point. Selfishness is something that leads to somebody not being humble, because they're not thinking about other people, even if they're outperforming that person. I think being humble is showing, working with actions instead of words. Actions speak a lot louder than words do, and you don't have to trash talk to show somebody that you're very exceptional at something. So I joke about bat flips and all that stuff, but being competitive is not a bad thing. But then again, being a dick on the field to somebody else just because you can is not acceptable, and it's a bad look for you. It's a bad look on your family, and if you're that way, your kid's going to be seen that way. And if they're seen that way, like we said, there's generational issues, and you're just creating one. So,
and they'll suffer because the kids won't want to hang with them, and that's something I tell Ben. It's like, when he's a poor sport, I'm like, son, it's better to be a good person, even in the face of loss, than to be somebody who complains or is a bad sport, because you will be relationally broken, and you won't have a lot of friends that want to play with you and moving forward. So that gift of friendship, again, it's the beautiful thing.
I got a very important, way to show how to be the gift of friendship.
I love it. Tyrion Lannister.
I had to be just a little point of sarcasm. No, that quote is so good, because I think especially kids, right? They're figuring out this crazy world of interacting with others, and my property versus theirs, boundaries and all these kinds of things. So them understanding how important friendship is and treating people with dignity and respect early on is gonna just completely it'll take their life in either one of two directions. One where they're gonna have friends and get along with people and learn how to work with people, and the other is gonna be they're difficult and lonely, and people are gonna butt heads with them and stuff. So yeah, that's a really good quote.
Yeah, because those are the same people who end up in leadership, unfortunately,
Sometimes
treat other
yeah.
people like crap, especially in like corporate positions, and they step on people to get there, and then they're miserable and lonely. They got all the money in the world, but they're the most miserable people in the world because, yeah, you may have found success trampling on other people, but you didn't lift anyone up along the way, and because of that, you're lonely, like you said. So if you do it the right way, you're humble, you're kind to others, you show people respect, you can still make it to the top of the mountain, but you'll have people there with you. So,
yep. And it's so much more than just. You brought up the point of like work, right? Like my leader for my business unit in our company, he is an awesome guy. He treats everyone with respect. He doesn't he doesn't yell or scream or that kind of stuff. And we had a team building kind of workshop thing that we were at 2 weeks ago, and he made that very clear that hey, like I treat everyone with respect, and I think that that's immensely important that everyone here on this team also do that to everyone. And we have a pretty good team, and everyone works pretty hard and takes care of each other. And I think it's a direct impact of his leadership demonstrating that to everyone, right? He creates that environment, so it has ripple effects, right? I mean, he obviously learned that probably from his parents and was raised that way and things like that. And anyway, so yeah.
All right. Well, George, I think we're at a great point where we can kind of tie up the podcast here. Maybe you can give us some insight on what we're going to be doing here in the future. And I think, Justin, you are our next podcast person. So what are we going to be talking about? Tell us a little preview.
Is that a new pronoun? Podcast person? They them? Podcast person?
Well, yeah. He's going to be our next person to pick.
He'll be the next man leading our father's podcast because we're men here.
Yeah. So I want to take two things. I really want to move towards one book more so than the other. Emotional Intelligence 2.0 is a great book. And I'm thinking of it professionally since we've already covered emotional intelligence in this. But I would actually like to cover Why by Simon Sinek, because a lot of people don't,
Start with Why? Is that the book?
Yeah. Start with Why. It's about knowing why we do things and why companies do things. And it's a very, very good professional book. And it's great to read as a father because you can implement it in any aspect of your life, which is awesome. But yeah, Simon's an incredible, incredible guy. He's super, super smart. But I think that the reason I wanted this was just simply because we haven't talked about why we do things as fathers. And I think that would really open up the floor to, what motivates us, what drives us, because at the end of the day, motivation is BS, man. It comes and goes, but, something that drives you like your child that's what gets you up. That's what, wakes you up in the middle of the night and makes you, not sleep.
When motivation is lacking, that's where discipline comes in.
Yeah. So I think this is a great book. I'd really like you guys to read it too, just because I've learned a lot from it. But I think it'd be helpful for fathers out there. So.
All right, so we will cover Start with Why by Simon Sinek. I have actually seen that book before. I haven't read it, but
I've read it. It's really good.
Yeah, I think awesome. I know he wrote it for like business, right, for team building and things like that. But I think the understanding your purpose, I think, is also immensely important as a father, as a husband. If you don't think about why you're raising your kids, then you're going to be kind of just like a ship on the ocean, where the wind blows type of thing. You got to have
I was thinking more along the lines of, if you don't know your whys in life, you can't fully give to your kids and your family.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably a lot of things we could apply to. We got another comment here, actually, real quick. Hey, FXKTP. I don't know. Thanks for dropping in. Great stuff. Looking forward to future podcasts. Heard of you from FNT. Well, Hale, thanks for dropping in from the FNT fellowship, as they call it. I accidentally said the word community and started a whole spat over there unintentionally, but they refer to themselves as the fellowship, which I like. And I think fellowship actually it implies a lot more connection with the people you're with than anyway. So thanks for dropping in. Good to see you. Thank you for the comment. And we'll keep building the podcast. So I guess that kind of segues into what Brandon was asking me to do, is kind of talk about what we're doing to improve the podcast. So we have set up our live streaming platform. We are going to try and do all these live if possible. If things are getting really too hectic in our work life or something like that, we'll just record and upload it later. But our intent is to be live so that we can interact with the audience, especially when we have guests on. I think that'd be really cool. In the future, we're gonna try and line up some guests for different topics. Hopefully, we get enough of a following that if we're talking about a book like this, we can potentially have that author even speak to their book and maybe talk about some of the things they wrote.
Yeah,
straight from the
especially
source.
fathers. Yeah, man.
So that'd be that's maybe a lofty vision, but if we get to that point, that's absolutely what we'll do. But we'll kind of just keep refining our process every time. We're getting a little bit better every time we do this. I think we're getting a little bit more comfortable with it, and again, our heart is in just making a podcast that is presenting valuable ideas and support to dads out there to just be better, just even if it's just a little bit better. And one thing I've appreciated about this, just what we have to do to get ready for each podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're definitely learning things. I've learned a lot already. And it challenges me to think about where I'm lacking and where I need to apply better, effort to improve. So that's kind of what's on the horizon. So to recap, we'll do Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I think there's a lot we can draw from that we can apply to being a dad and being a husband. But before we go, I just kind of wanted to go around again and you guys talk about, what's coming up in your lives the next couple weeks. What are you excited about? What can we maybe keep you in prayers about for any challenges or things like that, or where you need support or help, just anything like that. So, Brandon, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. So my son's birthday, his 8th birthday is coming up. We're celebrating it next Saturday. Super excited about that. We're kind of getting everything organized and getting as many of the kids that he loves at school and church and everywhere, to show up and that kind of thing. And so we're excited. Only thing that I've had that's really tough, my work is absolutely a blessing. My new job, love it to death. But I am having gut issues, and it's most likely long COVID related. So I've been having a lot of blood work done and a lot of tests and, ultrasounds and different things like that, just kind of trying to figure out and hone down what's the cause. And so, yeah, we'd love to figure out exactly, so that way we just have a plan of attack. But other than that, man, I'm blessed and I'm good. So that's my main thing.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good. We have a trip to Germany coming up. We're going to the Oktoberfest.
Oh, very nice.
I'm really excited. I've been all over northern Germany, but I've never been to Bavaria, southern Germany. So we're actually going to be there during the Oktoberfest, and I think it's going to be absolutely insane and awesome. So I'm super hyped about that. That'll be super cool. Man, it's been a great month. Just watching my son thrive. Having a great time with my wife. A lot of fun. We've had some date nights. Work hasn't been too bad. All in all, really have no reason to complain. And have such an exciting thing. I've got 10 days in Germany to go explore to look forward to. So I am over the moon and ready to enjoy some beer.
Little German,
Awesome.
sehr schön.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Some Hyperbeisen.
Yeah.
So definitely just ask for prayers for safe travels because I'm going to Chicago, and then I'm going a few other places later this year. But my son getting healthy again. I hate seeing him sick. It's breaking my heart, but he's a little trooper, so
Yeah.
I have faith in that. But Yeah, coming up, mom's birthday. We're going up to see the family, so I'll be around Brandon to do hopefully a podcast with him.
I didn't know. That's awesome.
Yeah,
we
Labor
should
Day.
definitely do it when you guys are like co-located. That'd be pretty
Yeah,
cool.
so Labor Day weekend, we're going up there.
Okay.
My wife and I, and it's weird because my twin and I have always been pretty close our whole lives, and all our family are. But he's the only person in my family who has not met my son, besides my grandparents, which is
life has just been hectic, man.
weird.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm ready for him to steal Brandon's heart and just throw it around and make Brandon a mushy ball of mess. And then let's see. Other than that, that's pretty much it, man. I'm just focusing on building my clientele with my new job, and just trying to hit quotas. Well, crush quotas, not hit them. Yeah, and just enjoying this, man. This is like the highlight of my every few weeks because it's therapeutic, man. And I want people to understand, like, first we need a name for our followers, like the patriarch or something cool, and then two, we want everybody to start interacting. So I'm really glad we went live.
You can call it the fathership.
Yeah,
like
there you
the
go.
fellowship at the fathership.
Yeah, or instead of the mothership, the fathership. There you go. No, I think it would be really cool to kind of, like you said, hone this to where, one, we don't try to get on tangents. We just have stuff that we say that we want others to relate to, but maybe start putting up some help sites every time we come on, or link the books so that we want everyone to follow along with us is the point. We want you to read the same books, have the same growths, and we grow as a group, or a fathership. Yeah, I can't say community. And grow together so that we know that other fathers are growing with us as well as our children. So I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it, man. Well, we'll keep you in our prayers for travel safety, and hopefully your flights aren't getting delayed. I ran into that this last week. It was a joy. And then for the little guy that he'll get over it. But yeah, that is definitely one of the hardest things about being like a new dad is when your kid gets sick and you're just like, God, there's nothing I can do for him. And then especially if it's just like sinus stuff, like it's a baby, they can't. There's nothing to do.
Can't
for
do
it.
anything.
It's like it has to run its course, and they're just like, and you're like, yeah.
So somebody else is going to Vegas.
Yeah, I am. Me and all my nerd buddies. Shout out to Security, the Guild. I think some of them might actually be watching right now, but
love you guys.
we're a bunch of nerds. That's we waste a lot of time playing stupid video games, but it's a lot of fun. They're a fun group of guys, and we're going there for a couple days. So that'll be really good to kind of see everyone. A lot of these guys I haven't met in person before, so it'll be pretty cool to get to, we've been playing for years online, and get to put faces, to names.
That's how we met.
That is how I know. Well, I guess by extension, everyone on this call I know because of gaming. Because Justin, we kind of connected and became friends, and then we finally met up. I think I had just started active duty, right? And I came down and just visited you guys for a weekend or something. And then Dustin, of course, I know you through Justin, so. There you go. See, gaming's not all bad, parents.
No, good friendships.
In moderation. Got to keep it in moderation.
In moderation. That's why I don't play WoW anymore. I'd like to stay
Lewis
married.
is watching. Lewis, appreciate you, man. Good to see you.
Bump.
Elbow bump. Yeah. I don't know what that's about, but Lewis is one of my fellow gamers who's also a dad. So shout out to Lewis.
Awesome.
Here
Nice.
we'll show that real quick. Elbow bump.
Yeah. And just for the record, this guy is also in that guild, and this is Aw Shift for folks that people don't know. So.
Yep. So good times.
Yeah.
My wife is rolling her eyes right now, but she's a trooper for giving me my raid nights to be a total nerd and embarrass myself that way. But I have fun with it, and that's a good little outlet coping mechanism for me.
There you go.
But just got to keep it in check, So that trip will be fun. But no, this is outside of me just hanging out with the boys. Daughter's back in school. This will be her first full week. And then my wife starts her class next week. So, we're just trying to get everything squared away and taken care of, and keep on, work is pretty busy. So just staying focused on that. And I'll be grinding pretty hard till I head out on Friday. So it'll be a busy week. But I'm excited. And, Can't believe summer's already over, basically. Kids
know,
back in
man.
school and everything. I feel like I blinked and it's over. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're back at it again. Got a second grader
That's it.
now. So yeah, that's it. But I'm just really pumped for this, and I've had a lot of fun working with you guys on this, and Brandon,
Likewise.
thanks for I was so busy I did not have a chance to actually read much of the book. So thanks for putting the notes together and kind of prepping us and helping us get better. And yeah, I'll definitely pick this book up. I think it's I have a daughter, so probably need to read the one about raising a daughter. And yeah, just thank you guys for the time investment being here to make this happen, and keep being great dads. I'm just proud of you guys. Yeah. And for those of you watching, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for the support. Last little plug, last request to the group: if you are watching this, please share it with other dads that you think would be interested, or even guys who are maybe considering being a dad or maybe want to be a dad one day. Share it with them. A lot of these things are probably better to learn before you're a dad than after you've already got them.
Yeah,
and that's one of the best things you can do to prepare for your children, is to learn how to be the best dad possible. So share the heck out of our channel with people you think would benefit from it. And we appreciate all the support and the love, and the fathership will grow. I think that's what we're going to call it. We'll brand it the fathership. So it's like the fellowship, but for fathers. So and also, share it with your wives too. We love their suggestions too on having that input, because we don't want to look at this with blinders on. My wife gives me a lot of feedback on each episode we do and recommends things, and so yeah, I mean there's benefits to be had there, and maybe it'll start some good conversations between you to strengthen your own marriage and stuff like that. So
Sure.
Please like the channel. Please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. That's what you need to do, and then share it with your friends who would benefit from it. So help us grow this thing, and we'll keep doing our best to put out good ideas that are going to help dads just improve and raise their kids better, and be better husbands to their wives. And maybe we can help some people out there. So that's really what this is all about. Any last thoughts, comments from the group?
I'm good, guys. You guys have an amazing week.
All right. Nice work, Brandon.
You too. Yeah, this is good.
Thanks, guys.
We kept it a lot shorter this time, a lot more succinct.
Yeah, we did good. We did good.
So, Justin, you'll be up. You're muted, brother. He's the boomer of the group, I swear. He's the most technologically challenged of the four of us.
No, I'm not. Not really. I'm just the most tired.
That is probably the most
that's
accurate.
true. Yep.
I am going to my next led podcast is besides what's coming up, is actually going to be for new fathers. I know that was the toughest transition for most of us. I want something educational for our followers.
Yeah, definitely.
Something that somebody can go back to. So what I'm going to do is get my wife and I sleep schedule for the baby. How you can support your wife throughout everything.
That's
huge.
Tips
and tricks that I learned, items. We're going to get items and things like that I use on a daily basis with my kids, and then kind of give you a crash course into welcoming yourself to fatherhood and delirium. And so that's definitely something there. The other thing is, just went blank. Sorry. If you have any comments, or you think anybody would be a great guest on our show, you have any suggestions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us on our Discord or in the comments, because we are looking for people with incredible stories and something with substance that we can share with other fathers. So
Absolutely.
please share that with us. If you know somebody who, I for one know somebody who just recently lost his son to a disease, and when the timing's right, I may approach him about coming on board. So it's definitely something that we want to share with other fathers, their experiences, their heartbreaks, their triumphs, everything. We want to share the good, bad, and ugly. So please do that for us.
Yeah, definitely comment if, even responding to things we talk about. If you disagree, we'd love to hear why. And we're just trying to exchange good ideas and grow together. So Dustin, anything else?
I made a Twitter. We'll get that all figured out. Definitely a goal is to have some short clips, 20, 30 second highlights from the podcasts, and we'll make sure to post those up, so you guys can get some highlights as far as that stuff goes. And that'll kind of draw you in to see the rest of it.
I'm the boomer, huh? I'm the boomer, huh?
Bunch of boomers in here commenting. I gotta delete our comment. Nice job. Taking it outside the private chat into the actual chat. Good job, guys. Good job.
Good night, fellas. I'm out.
Good night. With that, we're gonna end. Appreciate you all.
Night,
and,
guys.
Have a good night.
Much love.
All
right.
Bye, guys.